Hello fam, welcome back to another insightful video on our ongoing discussion on Estonia resident permit application for spouse. Today, we are diving into the nitty-gritty details of the waiting period, first response from the application handler, and the timelines that are involved when you submit your application. So, if you are navigating the complex world of immigration to Estonia, be rest assured that you are in the right place. So, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell to stay updated with my latest content. Now, let's get started. For the purpose of better understanding, I have divided this video into three major sections. So let's dive right in. Now, without wasting time, section one, that is the waiting period. The waiting period for an Estonian resident permit can vary based on several factors. Firstly, the type of resident permit being applied for can influence or impact the duration. Family-related permits, such as this one that we are discussing, may have a different processing times compared to other types of resident permit application. And additionally, the workload of the immigration authorities at the time of your application submission can also influence the waiting period. Now, let's discuss the factors that may influence the waiting period in details. The first thing I'm going to talk about, which I had mentioned earlier, is the type of resident permit that you are applying for. You know that in this video, we are actually talking about resident permit application for spouse. So, different resident permit types may have varying processing time. Understanding the specific category for spousal application is therefore very crucial for managing your expectations. The second thing I will talk about is the volume of applications. Like, I've mentioned it also. So sometimes high application volumes can extend the waiting period of your application. And then factors such as the time of the year or changes in immigration policy may also influence the number of the applications that they receive. So, depending on how much the application they receive, as at the time that you are submitting your own application, the timeline or the waiting period might vary. Then another thing I'm going to talk about is the completeness of your application, or let me say completeness of your application documents. The completeness of your application documents plays a crucial role in the waiting period. I've mentioned it before in my previous video as well, that if you give them all the possible document that is relevant to the application, it will save you time of waiting for them to approve your application. So sometimes incomplete or inaccurate submissions might lead to delays. But I must say that for Estonia, no matter how complete or accurate your application is, they will still find one document or another to ask from you. Now, because of that, let me just give you some tips on staying patient during the waiting period. Because I have experienced this before, and that is why I'm actually confident to tell you this. The first thing I will talk about in that regard is that you should stay informed. So you may need to check the status of your application from the official that is handling your application via email communication or in any other means that the handler actually initiated. Because I told you, they will first of all respond to you that okay, we have received your application. And usually the person that is handling your application is the one that usually reach out. Then we ask more questions or something like that. So whichever means that the person that is handling the application use in order to reach out to you, that's the means that you are going to use to communicate with the person as well. This can provide a sense of progress for you that, okay, now I know the state that my application is. So you will use that to have some kind of mindset that, okay, this is the stage my application is. You understand? So that instead for you to just be waiting and hoping and everything and you get frustrated or something like that. So the next thing I will talk about is uh, that you as a person should prepare for a delay in the application. Don't have an optimistic expectation about, okay, this is exactly the day that they are going to answer me because on their website they said 2 to 3 months. Sometimes it might be more than 2 to 3 months. Sometimes it might be exactly 2 months. Sometimes it can even be 6 weeks. Because I've had somebody that said they answered them in 6 weeks. I'm not sure about that, but that was what the person told me. So the situation is different for everybody. So you need to prepare for delay. So understand that delays can happen due to unforeseen circumstances. So mentally preparing for this possibility can reduce stress. In fact, when you are dealing with Estonian resident permit application, you really need this kind of mental preparation for any form of possibilities that may occur. I'm speaking from experience, like I always say. Another thing I would say is that you should focus on other aspects of your life. Don't base everything you are thinking on the application. It is not good for your mental health, it is not good for your well being. So focus on other things. Submit the application, let them do what they want to do. You just focus on something else and engage in an activities or pursuits that can distract you during the waiting period. So this could be a good time to explore Estonian local culture or to try to learn Estonian language. Believe me, this is very important to avoid being depressed in this period. And speaking from experience, like I always say again. Now, seek support. Sometimes you might not be able to do this thing alone. You might need support of other people. So you need to connect with others who might be going through a similar process or have gone through a similar process. It is good for you to communicate with some of them, but I must just issue an advice to you about that. Some people are usually not forthcoming with the correct information about the process, even though they have passed through the process. Maybe some of them have this mindset of they really don't want people to know too much about them. So sometimes they will tell you a little thing, and that little thing might lead you astray. It has happened to me before, and that is why I'm saying this. You need to connect with people that can be so open to you and can be so truthful about the application to you. Otherwise, don't even go near some people that will just want to tell you what they want you to hear. And at the end of the day, whatever they tell you is kind of misleading you to go and do the wrong thing. So if you are going to connect with people, make sure you connect with people that are truthful and are ready to open up to you 100%. You understand? So this is also very important. Sharing experiences and tips can provide emotional support for you. Remember, each immigration process is unique. I've mentioned it before. And while guidelines provide a general framework, individual circumstances can impact the timeline and the outcome. So have that at the back of your mind. Now, another factor that can delay the waiting period or that can prolong the waiting period is that sometimes when you submit some documents, especially the documents that are very, very official, the Estonia immigration authorities need to conduct security checks. And these security checks might take time depending on the country that you are coming from. So they need to run background checks and security clearances that are part of the process. So the time it takes to complete these checks can impact the overall waiting period, like I've said before. So this is also one of the things that either prolong or delay the waiting period. So that is section one. Now, the second section I'm going to discuss about is the first response from the person that is handling your application. Remember that I've said it before that you will receive a first response from the person that is handling the application. So, in this one, I'm going to be talking about what you need to expect after submitting your application. So, after submitting your application, typically you should receive an acknowledgement or confirmation of submission of your application from the official that is handling your application. However, the first substantial response is often a request for additional documentation or clarification if the initial submission is deemed incomplete. It is crucial to promptly respond to such requests. In fact, that really, really helps when they ask you a question and you promptly answer the question they ask you to avoid further delays. Now, how do you handle the first response from the authorities? You see, handling the first response requires diligence. You have to be very, very careful when you are handling the first response from the handler. Clear communication is essential during this phase. If there are uncertainties, seeking professional advice or consulting expert opinion or seeking the advice of people that has gone through the process can provide valuable insights for you so that you can answer the question in a very accurate way. Like I mentioned earlier, in Estonia, authorities may request more information. This is a standard procedure and it doesn't necessarily indicate a problem with your application. And in some cases, both applicants may be asked to provide further information. It could be maybe the applicant might be asked a question, or both the applicant and the sponsor might be asked question. That is the two spouses. If you watch my previous video, you understand the difference between the applicant and the sponsor. I talked about that in my previous video. This could be for further clarification or to assess the genuineness of the relationship of both of you. So, depending on the completeness and the accuracy of the application, an initial decision might be made actually. So, it could be an initial approval or even denial. So, but I would say that initial approval may lead to next step in the process, while denial also may require further action, or you have to go and appeal if you know that whatever the reason why they deny is not actually in accordance with the provision of the law. So you can actually go to court with that. Because I said I was going to use my own as an example. Um, of course, my our own initial response was actually not denial, but it was a suggestion or what they call opinion. But the opinion was not positive either. Now, me and my wife now had to prove to them that their opinion is not substantiated by the provision of the law. And decision to deny an application cannot be based on a mere opinion that is not specifically embedded in the provision of the law. So that was what me and my wife had to let them know. And at the end of the day, they approved my wife's resident permit because we were able to prove to them that your opinion doesn't count in this matter because there's already a provision in the law that states that on this purpose, on this basis, the application for the resident permit for a spouse must be approved. So we had to prove that to them, despite their negative opinion. So you understand what I'm trying to say? So that is why I said that the denial might not actually mean that, okay, finally they are not approving your permit. If you know the law very well and you can actually prove to them that no, this your opinion or this your denial is not substantiated by the law, and this is what the law said. Remind them of what the law said. So you can turn around whatever the opinion that they have, and then you will get a positive response. So that is the end of the section 2 of this. Now, the last section, which is section 3, is the timelines that are involved in your application. So, in this section, I will break down the entire timeline from application submission to the final decision. So, the clock starts ticking. Once you submit your application, the bulk of the timeline involves waiting for the application to be processed. This can range from several weeks to several months. But in Estonia, according to the law, waiting period is usually between 2 to 3 months. But the average processing time can vary though, and it is crucial to check the official immigration website for the most accurate and up-to-date information. So, at this junction, I have to thank you for joining me on this journey through the Estonian resident permit application process for spouses. I hope this guide brings clarity and confidence to your immigration journey. If you have any questions or suggestions for future video or even on this video, Don't shy away to drop those questions in the comment section below. So, until next time, stay informed and empowered. This is your man, Akinbi Bello, signing off. Peace out.